Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I would like to inform our viewers that Dr. Atish Chattopadhyay sir is the director of IFIM Business School. He has held various leadership positions in various institutes of country, such as IMT Ghaziabad, MICA Ahmedabad, SPJ in Mumbai. And we are truly delighted to have him on our leadership series, Thoughtful Leaders. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Great pleasure being here.
So, sir, as the director of IFIM Business School, can you throw some light on its genesis?
Thank you for this question. IFIM Business School was founded in the year 1995. As a matter of fact, we are now celebrating our silver jubilee. The way the institute came up was because of the fact that that was the time when the Indian economy was being liberalized. The country's economy was getting integrated with the global economy, and the financial markets, if you look at the stock markets, etc., were actually trying to become much more what I would say was getting liberated. The public was actually investing in the stock market. That was that period when the stock market boom was happening. Now, the founder of this school, Sri Vijay V. Parode, okay, he is also the founder of the Dalal Street Investment Journal. He was approached by few academicians, okay, that that we need to do something which will be in tune with the changing nature of India, okay, and he thought that it will be very good if the Indian stock market can be made much more professional in its approach. So, those days it was the dhoti-walas. So how do we professionalize the dhoti-walas? And number two, how do we integrate the Indian education with the, international institutions? Hence the name Institute of Finance and International Management. So that's how the institute started in the year 1995. 1995 to 2010 was the first phase of this institute's growth, where it was the initial years, coming from a rented premises to the present premises in the Electronic City, getting all the approvals, regulatory approvals, NB accreditation, etc. that happened during that period. 2010, the present chairman Sanjay Parode actually came into the, I would say, the institution in terms of its greater involvement. Okay, he himself is a BITS planning graduate, very successful entrepreneur. So he thought how it can be, it can actually get into the reckoning with what is the global standards, and he started the journey for the AACSB accreditation. Okay, and to many surprise, maybe 2018 was the year that the institution became the 6th institution in the country to be AACSB accredited, which is a huge landmark, so to say, not just for IFIM but also for the education system in India. And 2018 onwards, is what we call the IFIM 3.0. The new journey began, where we are now leveraging on the AACSB accreditation, and hopefully, this is the time when we are now gearing up for the global rankings. So it's a very different journey. And 2018, I came here and joined from IMT Ghaziabad. I have been knowing Sanjay Parode for the last more than 10 years or so, and when he said that it will be an interesting journey to build it in a very different way to get globally ranked, so we thought that together we will chase this dream to creating a truly global Indian business school. I think that's the journey which is happening now, and that's what we are enjoying.
That's really great to know, sir. Sir, you have been in various leadership roles. What is your philosophy of leadership, and how would you describe your leadership style?
See, I don't know whether what I call there is any philosophy or not. Okay, so first of all, leadership is about followership. Okay, you can hold a position, but you may not be a leader. Okay, so a leader essentially means somebody who has a follower. Okay, so I am not, and hence what I would say is that leadership is about the team. It is about each individual in the team being a leader. Okay, it is not that there can be one leader. So there has to be multiple leaders. Okay, so in a particular situation someone else is a leader, a B particular situation someone else is a leader. So leadership to me is about distributed leadership. So each one in the team being a leader in their own right, leading one activity, leading what I call, or whatever is the the task at hand. Okay, so leadership to me is about distributed leadership. It is about the team where everybody takes ownership. Okay, and finally, leadership is about people, and people will have different emotions, different expertise, and that fusion of diversity only makes the team very I would say dynamic and very versatile. So that diversity in leadership also entails learning to live with imperfections. So I think that's very important. It's about the team, it's about learning to live with imperfections, and to me, leadership is about distributed leadership, where it is not one leader, but multiple people coming together in the achievement of a dream or a broader objective.
That's really great to know, sir. Sir, as market trends are changing, now it's Industry 4.0. So how curriculum is being changed so that it is in synchronization with the changing trends?
See, the curriculum has undergone quite a change during the recent times. If we look at it, that we also, we as MBA educators wanted to stay relevant. And I would give you a few examples. For example, in 2008, there was a very seminal book which came out. Okay, post the 2008 crisis, basically, which was done by two Harvard professors, Professor Srikant Datar and David Gavin, who is no more, and along with Patrick Cullen. Okay, rethinking the MBA. And in that book, some of the unmet needs of the industry was identified. Okay, and that created that whole what I call approach of a combination of knowing, doing, and being. Okay, earlier we used to talk about KSA, knowledge, skill, and attitude. Then the whole concept of knowing, doing, and being came in. Now, if we look at the present scenario, okay, we are talking about the whole technology-led, what I call the digital economy or the gig economy that is happening. We at IFM Business School, 2018-19 took a very extensive what I call research to find out what are the industry needs. Okay, and we actually reached out to almost 300 senior executives in India in association with National Human Resources Development Network, and identified around 10 needs. It was an extensive work. So we got around 293 responses, followed by roundtables in Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi, where 43 CXOs participated, okay, including almost 18 CEOs. Okay, and we found out that the future professional will be those, okay, who are going to be essentially T-shaped professionals. Okay, which means the horizontal bar of the T is about a holistic or a broad angle view of the foundations of management, if we are talking about management as a discipline, which involves, a multidisciplinary approach, plus what we today call about the essential skills, like ability to, execute, being socially responsive, okay, taking care of oneself, which is not just, your understanding of oneself, self-awareness and self-development, but also about one's own wellness and fitness. And post-COVID, that has become such a reality. Then the whole issue of socially responsible, being solution oriented, that how do you find solutions to a problem. So these are the broad skills. Now, if you have to talk about the vertical bar in the T, it was about, a specialized knowledge and skill of a particular area. Okay. But more so in today's case, earlier the vertical T would be just like a, say, a marketing specialization. Today we are talking about a sharp, pencil or a pen, where there is a further sharpness in that vertical T. So today it is not just about marketing or finance, it is about martech or fintech within the specialization in major in marketing. So that's how I think the future professionals are going to be those who are essentially T-shaped professionals. Okay, while you have a broad perspective of various disciplines, you understand how what kind of interplay happens within the disciplines. Somebody who is self-aware, is capable of taking care of one's own health and fitness, which is also very important, is socially responsible, can execute effectively, which is something very, very much neglected a lot of times, who is, solution oriented, but at the same time, somebody who has got specialized knowledge and skills of a particular area, and in today's context, a very deep specialized skill in a specialization, or what we call a super specialization, okay, within that specialization. So martech or a fintech within marketing and finance. Okay, I am glad to share that we have actually launched a program called SpecX. Okay, so which is like, like a very specialized kind of a program. So it is a specialized marketing or a specialized finance. Now I may be a marketing specialization guy, I'm doing a major in marketing, but I can decide, okay, no, within marketing I want to be a communication designer, I want to only be in digital marketing, I want to be only in what I call sales. So that is the sharper, part of the T. So that's how I think that's where the T-shaped professionals become very important, and not just a specialization, but a further, that a pinpointed, very specialist approach, which is aligned to Industry 4.2.
Rightly said, sir. Sir, amidst this lockdown, what are your plans for the upcoming batch in terms of induction and classes?
We are very fortunate, because when the lockdown happened, I think 23rd and 15th, Bangalore, what we call, we got the information that, the colleges need to suspend. And we use those 7 days to quickly, what we call, adapt ourselves to the, the new technology. Okay. And most importantly, there are 2-3 aspects to it, if I have to look at it. One part is, of course, the admission. How do we do admissions today using the technology? Second was the delivery, the academic delivery. Third was the whole issue of progression, which means the examinations and assessment. Fourth was the whole issue of graduation and, industry integration or career placements. So we were very fortunate because our technology was already in place, because Bangalore is there, and as I said, my founder is a BITS Pilani alumnus. So we already had recording of our classes. We had this technology, whereby we could use the screen as a board and all that. So we did not lose any time. We immediately shifted to, online or remote synchronized classes, just like we are talking now. Number 2, we moved our assessment to, the what we call online proctored examination. We use a platform which is metal platform we used. So it was the entire exam was online, which means our students are across 22 states of the country and they could seamlessly appear for the exams. So we did not face any challenge. As a matter of fact, our convocation was online, and where the Honorable Speaker of Lok Sabha, okay, Shri Om Birla, came in as chief guest and delivered the convocation address. Okay. And so there was no disruption as far as our schedule or the calendar is concerned. As far as the new batch is concerned, 6 July we have onboarded the new batch. The classes are as per schedule. Okay. And I think both faculty and students have adopted very well. And we, as a matter of fact, got the QS, iGauge, iLead certification. And I am glad to share with your viewers that we got full marks. We did not, I have never scored a full marks in any subject probably. But for the first time, for our online piece, okay, online engagement with the students, whether it is admission, whether it is delivery, whether it is assessment, whether it is convocation, we got the full marks, which means I think as far as adoption of the technology is concerned and to make the experience almost equivalent to campus experience, I think we are up there. As a matter of fact, we have launched a program called Learning from Home. Learn from Home program, which is a fully, online PGDM recognized by AICTE, which is and accredited by AACSB, which is admission, curriculum, delivery, assessment, graduation, everything online.
Sir, congratulations on the full marks. Sir, because of this COVID, students are very skeptical about the final placements. What are your thoughts on this skepticism?
See, I don't think there should be any skepticism. Okay. All these things will keep on happening. Okay. 2008, there was a slowdown. Okay. And when the slowdown happened, okay, everybody thought that there will be no placements, etc., etc. Okay. Now, what placement happened? As a matter of fact, this is the best time for the best guys to get placed. Okay. I am glad to share that none of the offers that were given by the companies to our graduating class of 2020, okay, there was no case of any company revoking any offer. So all of them are up there. Number two, the batch which will be graduating in 21, we received 3 offers yesterday, pre-placement offers. Okay, which means that it is on track, because the industry integration is happening, because it is happening. Earlier it was face-to-face, now it is on platforms like Zoom, Teams, etc. So all our industry projects were assessed by the industry mentors on the Zoom or Teams platform. Okay, and I think that our engagement with the industry is very strong and our students are well prepared. I don't find any reason to be, to believe that the placement will be not as good. As a matter of fact, to my mind, the worst is over. You can see that things are going to go up from now. And people have probably learned to deal with this situation. Since COVID is not going to go, but industry is going to remain, business schools are going to remain, educational institutions are going to remain, and all of them will continue and thrive. So placements will also keep on happening.
That's really good to know, sir. Sir, what do you think are the USPs of your institute?
See, I think first of all, the biggest USP is that we are a professional school. Okay, which means that our teaching, learning is what influences the practice and what is relevant to practice. Okay, so if we look at it, our faculty body, we have got around 50 plus faculty. Okay, many of them are drawn from the practice post which they came to academic, and they had all held CXO positions. Okay, now that capability to link to practice is something which is the most important aspect. So our faculty is number one strength, who are actually from the practice to academia. So the capability to link the dot, that industry academia gap that normally is talked about, I think IFIM has been successfully able to bridge that gap through a faculty body which can relate to practice and impart those knowledge and skills to the student body which is relevant. Number two strength is our strength of the curriculum. As we said, that we have a curriculum to groom T-shaped professionals. Okay, so we have got very strong practice courses in design thinking and innovation. So we have an innovation exhibition where students actually work on industry problems and then present it. What we approach the industry for what we known as the request for problems. So actual life, real life problems, which is taken, worked on, and then solutions are found out. That's a huge strength is our curriculum, okay, to groom T-shaped professionals, which I talked about. And the third strength to my mind is those international super specializations, okay, in new age areas. So we have got, for blockchain and big data analytics, we have got a tie-up with, MACOMs at Texas at Austin. For fintech and digital transformation, we have got a tie-up where our students go to ESCP London, okay. And for MarTech, our students go to Darden, University of Virginia. I think the super specializations, which is again that sharper part of the T, is a big plus, okay, in our curriculum. So faculty, curriculum, and the international tie-ups are the three unique characteristics, backed by practice courses like social immersion, effective execution, where students worked in committees to, learn how organizations actually function. Then the whole issue of a long industry internship, almost 4.5 months, which, is more like students actually engage with the industry before they get placed. Okay. And then the whole issue of, the research incubation or innovation incubation, the students work on, again, real life problems to solve real problems. I think those are very unique features, which is not generally, seen in business schools across the country. These are very, very unique to our school.
That's really wonderful, sir. Sir, what are some of the biggest challenge you see for higher education in India, and how this NEP will impact the Indian education system?
See, the challenge in Indian education is, first of all, the whole issue of GER, the gross enrollment. Okay. Then the whole issue of dropouts at the primary level, the school dropouts. Number three, the whole issue of a very straight line, okay, or a straight-jacketed method of education, where people are very, very, you get into one discipline, you stick to one discipline. So there was a rigidity in the whole education system. I think what the new education policy is going to do is to make education more broad-based with a multidisciplinary approach, number one. Then breaking the barriers across disciplines, like if you are a science guy, you have to do only science. If you're an engineering guy, you have to do only engineering. So the possibility of combination, okay, that you be an engineer and at the same time study music. Similarly, the other issue is of that multiple entry and exit, particularly in the higher education institutions. So I can do 1 year, I can take a what you call job, job for 2 years, come back again do, and my credits remain banked. Okay, so these are welcome step in the NEP, which creates flexibility, because the gig economy today is, you work when you want to, you recruit when you want to. So the academic institution also has to be that you learn when you want to. Okay, and given that there is a 100-year life expectancy, what is going to happen is that there will be multiple times somebody has to go back to an educational institution for upskilling and reskilling. The NEP makes that possible. It is not a start and finish. So I have to, as a person, you have to continuously learn, relearn, and upgrade oneself. Okay, I think that credit bank and that ability to learn as a lifelong learner, I think is something which the NEP is going to make it possible. And I think that the challenge in the Indian education system, if you have to look at it really, is the challenge of faculty. Okay, we have got great talent, but we need to have a faculty which is going to be aligned to the aspirations of the younger generation. Okay, but one good thing is, because of technology today, the access to good faculty also becomes feasible. So if our learning, teaching, assessment, all these are delivered through technology, then a large portion of the population can be reached out. And the biggest challenge of scaling up, because of I would say access, and when I say access to faculty, access to good teaching material, I think those challenges can be solved. Okay, because those are real challenges. People talk about penetration of the internet or the devices. I think that can be handled by the government, or a lot of NGOs are there. That is a very solvable problem. See, internet penetration and device issue is a problem which can be solved by money. Okay, so what we call what money can buy. Both internet penetration and device, money can buy. But good faculty, money cannot buy, because that is like, it's a performing art. You cannot create one more Amitabh Bachchan just like that. Okay, but if Amitabh Bachchan comes on television or a movie theater, a large population can get access to the movie of Amitabh Bachchan. I think technology will enable access to good faculty and good teaching material, and the challenge of scaling up will greatly get addressed going forward.
Rightly said, sir. And also that was a great analogy. Sir, what are your expectations from the student who are going to be the part of IFIM's family from this year onwards?
See, we are an entrepreneurial organization or an institution, so to say. We love to explore, love to experiment, love to find out what we call solutions to newer problems. Okay, it's a mindset of discovery, exploration, okay, experimentation, and coming up with solutions which can make an impact on the society. And our selection process is also aligned to that. So we are looking for those kind of members in our family, and our students are as much our family members and the most important stakeholders who are innovative, who are entrepreneurial, who are ready to experiment, ready to explore, who can find out solutions to problems, and who can make an impact on the society. Okay, and most importantly, they must enjoy what they do. I think that is what what we love to do, and that is what we would like our students to do.
That's really great, sir. Sir, at last, what would be your suggestion or message to the students who are aspiring to join your, or who are preparing to join your prestigious institute?
See, first of all, you are making a very important choice. Okay, and when you are making a choice, you make the choice based on what is the future going to be like, not based on what is at present. Okay, having been in some of the top schools, I know that today you talk about those as top schools, but if you look at the history of some of the institutions that I had served earlier, they were probably not at the top when I joined there, but I always thought they are going to be the top. Okay, just like in the stock market, one needs to identify the future winner. Similarly, when you are choosing the institution, you need to take into account which institution is going to be the future winner. Okay, and it is and post this COVID, there is going to be a disruption. if you just look at the the Fortune 500 list of companies, okay, 10 years back and today, 10 years back it was all the oil companies. Today it is all the companies like Facebook, Amazon, Google, I mean that is alphabets of the world, because data has become the new oil. Similarly, post this COVID, we will see that there will be a disruption in the academic education space. So one has to really look at institutions which are grooming students who will be relevant to the future economy, not the Jurassic economy. Okay. So I think to the aspirants, it is very important to find out which are those institutions which are going to be the winners in the new economy. Okay. And they need to really look at what is the future like. And hence, to my mind, they must be futuristic while enjoying the moment. That's very important. Today, we must live the moment, enjoy the moment, and yet look at the institutions, look at our what we call career in terms of what is going to be the the trend going forward. Okay, not at present and definitely not the past. So I would say that if you are an MBA aspirant, be futuristic, be optimistic, and enjoy the moment.
Rightly said, sir. Sir, this discussion was really insightful. I'm sure viewers will learn a lot from this. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Great pleasure. Thank you so much.